You know how we think of myths as these separate, distinct stories? Well, what if they're not? Today, we're going to peel back the layers on two really famous German legends, and what we're going to find is a much darker folktale hiding right underneath them. It's a story about ambition, about deception, and about a single, shadowy figure that connects them both.
And that leads us to the big question for this whole explainer. What if a god that people revered and a demon they reviled aren't actually opposites at all? What if they're just two different masks, worn by the very same ancient manipulative force? I mean, that question, that's the key to unlocking this entire story.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures the chilling vibe at the heart of our story. This isn't about good versus evil. No, this is about a cold, detached power that looks at all of humanity like we're just insects under glass, something to be studied, tested, and, ultimately just played with for its own amusement.
Okay, so our story begins where a lot of good ones do, on a lonely road with a pretty mysterious traveler. But, as we all know with folktales, what you see is never, ever the full picture. So let's meet our first figure, the Wanderer.
So, let's break this down. On the surface, you've got Der Wanderer. He looks like a simple, weary traveler, just trying to test the kindness of strangers. And his most important symbol? That wide-brimmed hat, perfect for hiding his face. But here's the secret, the big reveal. This is no ordinary guy. This is the great god Wotan himself.
So why the whole getup? Why the elaborate costume? Well, because Wotan's true divine form was apparently so powerful, so absolutely terrible, that even a quick glimpse of it would literally burn a mortal's eyes to ash. So that Wanderer's mask, it wasn't just a disguise. It was a tool he had to use to walk among the very people he wanted to manipulate.
I want you to remember this structure: the disguise, the goal, and the secret. Now that second column is empty, for now, but a really chilling parallel is about to fill that space.
All right, let's meet the second figure in our story. He's also walking the open road, but his disguise, it's all about intellect. And his promises, they are pure poison.
So here we have this sophisticated companion. He shows up looking like a clever scholar or maybe a cunning nobleman, and his symbol is that academic gown. His offer is so tempting: knowledge, partnership, someone to guide you through the world. But his secret identity? It's the demon Mephistopheles, and his true goal is way, way more sinister.
And this phrase, wow, it just nails his whole method, like a maggot in silk. It's perfect, right? It just captures that hidden corruption, that ugliness hiding underneath a really polished surface. For him, travel isn't about learning or seeing new things. It's a weapon. Every single step on that road is another chance to whisper in your ear, to exert his influence, and to lead his unsuspecting victim straight to spiritual ruin.
And boom, now the picture is complete. The parallels are they're impossible to ignore. You have two figures, two disguises, the wide-brimmed hat and the scholar's gown, and they're both using the road to manipulate people. One tests your character, the other corrupts it. We're not looking at a god versus a demon here. We're looking at two sides of the exact same coin.
And this, right here, this is the real heart of the folktale. These aren't two separate stories that just happen to bump into each other. No, they are two paths of a single, ancient spirit, and they are destined to meet at a mythological crossroads.
You know, the image of a crossroads is so powerful. It's the place where the ancient, sacred world of a god like Wotan literally intersects with the modern, cynical, profane world of a demon like Mephistopheles. It's the exact point where their shared identity is finally going to be revealed.
So what is it that really connects them? It's a concept called the mercurial shadow. Think of it as an ancient archetype, a spirit of travel, magic, and trickery. The Romans had a name for it: Mercury. And this very same energy, this same spirit, flows through both the god of wisdom and the demon of wit.
And you can actually trace how this archetype evolved over time. It starts with Wotan, the ancient restless god of wisdom. Then it gets echoed in the Roman god Mercury, the fast-talking trickster. And then it evolves into Mephistopheles, where that simple trickery gets sharpened into this dark intellectual manipulation. You see, it's one continuous thread running through history. So now we've got to take this idea one step further. If they share a shadow, what does that really mean? It means they aren't just connected, they are literally reflections of each other, both born from a single primordial source.
Just let that sink in for a second. Not two different beings, but one. A single ancient force that can show up as a wise god or as a cynical demon. This is the true monster of our story, and believe me, it's bigger than any one myth.
And this is exactly why this folktale matters so much. This force isn't just some character in an old story. It's a powerful, dangerous archetype that's embedded deep inside the collective psyche. It's a pattern of thinking, a pattern of behaving that has very real-world consequences.
And what are those consequences? Well, this energy is incredibly volatile. When it gets unleashed, not on just one person, but on an entire population, it has the potential to grab hold of the collective mind. And the result, as we've seen in history, can be a sudden, violent, and absolutely terrifying societal frenzy.
Which brings us to the final and most chilling moral of our tale. The story of Wotan and Mephistopheles is basically a blueprint for how a whole nation makes a deal with the devil. A deal we all know as the Faustian Pact.
You know, Faust's bargain is usually a story about one person, but this folktale scales it way, way up. A national Faustian pact is what happens when an entire society decides to trade its moral soul for the promise of strength, basically inviting this dark, manipulative force to take control.
Which leaves us all with this incredibly crucial question. If a nation makes that kind of pact, if it lets its ambition just run wild, without any kind of moral compass, what is the ultimate price? This old folktale suggests that the cost is, well, it's catastrophic.
So in the end, Wotan and his demonic reflection. They're not just characters, they are a timeless warning. They represent the mental framework for unchecked ambition. A cautionary tale that has haunted humanity for centuries, always reminding us of the dangers that are lurking inside our own collective psyche.
And that's where we have to end. The Wanderer's journey, you see, it never truly ends. This archetype, this ancient force, is always on the move. Which leaves us with one last, haunting question to think about. If he's still out there, where is he walking now?